Derek Monroe's morning had been smooth, predictable even until it wasn't. He moved through JFK's Terminal 4 with the calm assurance of a man who had done this more times than he could count. His suit was perfectly pressed, his tie neat, his gait confident but unhurried. In one hand he carried a slim black briefcase. In the other, a first-class ticket to San Francisco. At 52, Derek was scheduled to give the keynote address at the Western Green Summit. He'd become a fixture at such conferences, known not for theatrics or bombast, but for his substance. He didn't crave attention, thrived on execution. Efficient travel, smooth check-ins, direct flights, short lines. That's all he wanted. But as he approached Gate 22, the energy shifted. The boarding line hadn't officially formed yet. A few early passengers lingered nearby, sipping overpriced coffee and fiddling with emails. Derek approached the gate counter, offered a polite smile to the young agent standing behind it, and handed over his ticket. She didn't scan it. Instead, she looked at him. Really looked too long, too suspicious. Her eyes flicked from him to the ticket, then back again. Something in her body language said she was deciding something. Derek held his stance relaxed, respectful, but waiting. "This lane's for priority passengers," she said flatly. "I'm aware," Derek replied calmly. She hesitated, then finally scanned his ticket, but even that didn't go as it should have. Her fingers hovered above the scanner. She glanced at her colleague a few feet away and muttered something under her breath. The other agent looked over, puzzled. Then came the pivot. "I'll need your ID," the gate agent said curtly. Derek raised an eyebrow but didn't resist. "That's not usually requested at this point," he noted. "Is there an issue?" "Standard security protocol," she replied, her voice thinner now. Derek knew that wasn't standard. Not here. Not now. But he handed over his license without flinching. She took it, barely looked at it, then set it aside like it didn't matter. "Please wait here," she said, before stepping away and speaking quietly to a man in a TSA uniform. It wasn't unfamiliar, this pattern. He'd experienced it before, rarely, but memorably. The subtle transformation of courtesy into caution. When someone's uncertainty about who you are turns into suspicion of what you're doing. It wasn't his name, his actions, or his tone. It was the fact that to her he didn't look like first class. That was it. That was everything. The security guard approached. Stiff shoulders. Controlled steps. Not quite aggressive, but watchful. Derek stepped aside, avoiding the boarding line without being asked. He didn't raise his voice. Didn't scowl. Instead, he pulled out his phone and dialed a number. "Monica," he said into the receiver, "I need you to pull up the Skynova catering contract. The coastal routes deal to $48 million won. I'm at JFK, Gate 22. Just flag it." He ended the call and stood still, ticket still in hand, posture unthreatening. There was no hint of agitation on his face, just quiet, purposeful waiting. The gate agent, whose name tag read Riley, turned back to the desk and glanced nervously at Derek. A few passengers began lining up, one of them murmuring, "Is he the holdup?" Riley fumbled at her computer, feigning some kind of task. Her colleague, Simone, leaned over. "Is something wrong with the ticket?" she asked, concern blooming on her face. "I don't know," Riley whispered. "It just doesn't feel right." Simone frowned. "Riley, it says first class." Riley didn't answer. Her jaw tensed. She was too deep into her decision to back out now. Meanwhile, Monica called back. "Pulled it," she said. "Want me to ping their food division?" "Already did," Derek replied. "Let's see who answers." He hung up again. The gate remained in limbo. First class hadn't boarded, and Riley still hadn't cleared him. Derek's ticket, printed clearly with his name Derek Monroeist in his hand like an unspoken question. He stood there, still as stone. 20 years earlier, Derek had stood behind a Purdue standoff Route 8 in Akron, Ohio. His van was secondhand. His crates handmade. The business had started with him selling peaches out of a cooler, chasing his mother's belief that good food could build good futures. Over time, he listened more than he talked. He watched trends, studied shipping patterns, identified waste, and turned a regional food stall into a national supply chain engine. Today, Monroe Harvest Solutions fed millions grocery chains, universities, military bases, and now, thanks to a recent contract, Skynova Airlines. The same airline whose gate agent now saw him as suspicious. The $48 million deal had taken 18 months to finalize. Skynova needed an overhaul after a PR disaster involving frozen in-flight meals and unsustainable packaging. Derek didn't pitch flash. He offered a system farm-to-flight logistics that minimized waste and maximized quality. They signed without hesitation. But clearly, not everyone at Skynova had read the fine print or recognized the man who made the whole thing possible. Riley, unaware of who stood in front of her, whispered again into her headset. Her supervisor buzzed in. Gate 22 is showing a delay. What's going on? Just a passenger issue, she mumbled. You've got board members on this flight, came the sharp reply. Fix it. Lisa, the security agent, stepped over and whispered to Riley again, this time more directly. Do you know who that is? She asked. No, Riley said, confused. That's Derek Monroe. His company's overhauling our entire food program. Check the vendor list. Riley's face blanched. Just then, Derek's phone rang again. Monica, their VP, just responded. So did legal. You've got the weight behind you. Thanks, he said. Let it roll. The crowd behind him grew more restless. One man snapped, is this guy holding up the line? A woman pulled out her phone, recording casually. Simone stepped forward and said quietly, Riley, let him board. This is getting out of hand. But Riley froze. If she let him board now, everyone would know she'd been wrong. She couldn't let go of her pride, not with so many eyes watching. Then a voice cut through the terminal, a calm but authoritative woman in a navy blazer, heels echoing against the tile. Mr. Monroe, she said, approaching him. Derek turned. I'm Lauren Kim, Regional Director for Skynova. May I speak with you? He nodded and stepped aside with her. Behind the counter, Riley stood pale and still. Her headset hung slack against her shoulder. I want to apologize, Lauren said, voice low and sincere. This shouldn't have happened. I've escalated the issue and I'd like to personally escort you onto the flight. Derek didn't blink. I was told this lane was for priority only. Lauren didn't flinch. That was a mistake. I assure you it's being corrected. He studied her for a moment, then nodded toward the counter. That mistake wasn't about the seat. I know, she said. We're reviewing procedures. There will be accountability. I'm not asking for apologies, Derek said. But I do expect change. She nodded again, more slowly this time. Beside her, another man in a gray suit stepped forward. Brian Newton, he said. Legal counsel for Skynova. I'd like to formally say we are deeply sorry for what you've experienced. Derek raised a hand. Save the speeches. You already know what went wrong. He opened his briefcase and handed over a folder. This contract outlines everything my company supplies to Skynova. Every tray. Every salad. Every apple. I'm not a security threat. I'm part of your brand. Brian swallowed hard. Lauren gestured toward the jet bridge. May I? Derek finally stepped forward. As he passed the counter, he looked at Riley not with rage, but with disappointment so sharp it sliced through her composure. She couldn't meet his eyes. The boarding resumed. Derek entered the cabin of the plane. The flight attendants stood straighter. One of them, Daniel, took his briefcase and offered water. Anything you need, Mr. Monroe. Derek nodded. He sat in seat 1A and set the bottle down untouched. Outside, the terminal quieted. The flight was now delayed. Nearby gates paused too, citing system reviews. The real reason. Skynova's leadership was in emergency mode. In a top-floor office, Lauren launched an internal audit. Jenna was pulled from the gate. Legal scrubbed the logs. HR flagged Riley for a full review. And throughout it all, Derek remained still, composed, unreadable. He wasn't angry. He was ready. By the time his plane touched down in San Francisco, the incident was already a low roar in travel forums. A blurry photo circulated of a man standing calmly at gate 22, phone in hand, the caption, he didn't yell, but the terminal heard him anyway. At the Western Green Summit, Derek delivered his keynote flawlessly. He never mentioned the airport, but his final words lingered. Sometimes the issue isn't the process. It's the assumptions we make about the people in it. The applause was steady, earnest. Back at Skynova, policies changed. Training modules were rewritten. Riley's name faded from the rotation, her headset replaced by a written apology that never made it past legal review. Derek didn't demand headlines. He created impact. His silence that morning wasn't the absence of protest. It was the presence of power. And Gate 22 would never forget the lesson he left behind. 4.